Tonight, choking through the worst air quality in the world.
It just looks really scary. I'm thinking if I'm inhaling something strange that I shouldn't be.
Details on how long the wildfire smoke will linger over the GTA.
People do it anyway, so why criminalize them for it if they do it safely and responsibly?
And cheers. The city moves forward with legal drinking in 20 parks. How they were selected and why not everyone is raising a glass to the idea.
I had to pull him out of retirement one more time for one last heist.
These are deep questions.
These are the really, really deep, nuanced questions that Ken has to deal with.
Plus, not one, but two Canadian Kens flex in Toronto tonight. We'll take you to Barbie's pink carpet. Hi there, I'm Chris Glover. People across the GTA are breathing a bit more easily tonight. The intense wildfire smoke that blanketed much of the region this afternoon has significantly improved this evening, but the dangerous air quality is not done with us yet. Ali Chiasson has more on our smoky saga.
It's hazy and it's hard to breathe.
I got pretty good stamina, but I was sucking air.
Okay, it's supposed to get worse later.
Oh, really? I'll be riding my bike all over the city later on. So we'll see then how much it affects me.
Not only is it the talk of the coffee shop, the forest fire smoke is the talk of a huge swath of the nation.
All of southern Ontario currently under air quality alert.
But worsening air quality has been the talk of climate scientists.
Given the nature of climate change and the increased tendency of warmer than normal temperatures continuing over the coming decades, and the drying nature of climate change, it's something that is going to be more probable.
It's already more noticeable.
Looked up the index online and it didn't look so good. Came here outside and you can't even see the CN Tower.
The Air Quality Health Index was around a 4 when we spoke to these joggers.
It just looks really scary. I'm thinking as I'm breathing, I'm thinking if I'm inhaling something strange.
By 4 p.m., Toronto's air quality index was 10.
One of the big ways that smoke can be a negative impact on our health is because of the particulate matter. It has very, very fine particulate matter, which we can inhale, and that can impact our lungs and our overall health.
Particulate matter refers to the tiny droplets of pollution or chemicals in the air. In urban areas, it's often car exhaust or other fumes. But as forest fires rage in the north, it also contains ash. The higher concentration of particulate matter in the air, the higher the air quality health index, indicating to you that you should avoid prolonged exposure and breathing that in.
This is a trend that researchers have been anticipating for quite some time and are anticipating will continue into the future as we experience these warmer and drier climatic conditions that really support intensified fires.
The smoke is serious, and now that more and more people can see it and smell it, there's hope that society will take climate change seriously and do more to clear the air. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
And the air has cleared tonight a little bit. The smoky conditions already improving as we look live at this city. Colette is here with a first look at the forecast. And Colette, even though it's improved some, that smoke is certainly still hanging in the air.
Yeah, here we are, Chris. So that special weather statement still in place, an air quality statement for just the really terrible conditions we're experiencing with that smoke. And yes, we had that today, tonight. Tomorrow the winds shift and we should get some improvement. But I do just want to caution folks, it's just some improvement. It is not necessarily going away. It's going to take some time for this to change and really diffuse, and then we know it can come back again. It kept the temperatures down a little bit. So even though we had sunshine, that layer of smoke, a high just 24 degrees for Toronto. And looking ahead for tomorrow, that UV index is going to be high. This time we may get a better look at that sunshine and a little less smoke and haze, but still that AQHI, Air Quality Health Index, is going to be in the moderate range. It's not dropping to low, so around 6. And looking at Windsor, 9 for your UV, and also moderate, where we've again had some very bad conditions. Much of it is going to push now back towards eastern Ontario and the nation's capital. 13 tonight with that hazy smokiness, 25 the high for tomorrow. We'll look at the weekend forecast coming up.
Yeah, of course, with the long weekend, everybody wants to know. Thanks, Colette. To a sad story out of Scarborough now. A 6-year-old girl is in hospital tonight with serious injuries after being bitten by dogs that were on the loose, according to police. The incident happened in the area of Midland Avenue and Lawrence Avenue East this morning, and residents in the area described the aftermath of what happened.
I saw the cut on the girl's leg, and it was bad. The bite was really bad on the girl's leg. And then we just saw the ambulance and the cops and come in, and we tried to calm the dad down.
Toronto Animal Services secured the dogs and say they are not a banned breed. The investigation into all of this is ongoing. After months of back and forth, the City of Toronto is formally proposing a pilot program that would make it legal to drink alcohol in public parks. But not all councillors are on board with the pilot, with some opposing it and others saying it doesn't go far enough. Dale Manukduk has that story tonight.
A toast to good times with good friends. Then on August 2nd, perhaps something else to celebrate. Toronto intends to launch a 2-month pilot that would allow people to consume alcohol in some city parks.
In a 2-month time frame with a couple of long weekends scattered in there, we're going to be able to monitor closely and evaluate and really come back to council with good information to make a decision for the whole city.
What do you think, buddy?
Then it could work. So yeah, I'm cautiously supportive.
Bunch of kids who are finishing up in JKSK, and we're throwing a party. So it's a great place for people to come and meet. And if you can have a beer or a glass of wine at the same time, then I see no harm in it.
Every park in every neighborhood in Toronto has its own unique demographics. In the East End here at Monarch Park, there's a lot of young families, and while the people I've spoken to are supportive of adults responsibly drinking in the park, they are concerned about noise levels. But again, not every park is the same. It's no secret that people have been enjoying beverages here at Trinity Bellwoods for years. The demographics skew a little bit younger, and of course, people have less access to outdoor space in downtown where there are many condos and apartment buildings.
People do it anyway, so why criminalize them for it if they do it safely and responsibly?
The city report shows not a single ticket was issued for drinking in parks all of last year.
It's not being enforced, even though the signs are up there.
On July 6, staff will consider the pilot program. It selected 20 parks across 12 wards fanned across the city, with Davenport and Toronto Danforth each with 4 parks. Notably absent are any parks in the 3 Etobicoke wards, and only 2 of 6 Scarborough wards are participating.
Every councillor in this pilot project can either opt in or opt out, but it also allows councillors to act like bouncers and decide whether or not people can drink in their park or not.
York Centre Councillor James Pasternak tweeted the policy is doomed. Meanwhile, Josh Matlow thinks all parks across the city should be included and is confident the list will grow before the pilot launches.
It's going to grow in my ward, without a doubt. I've already formally made the request, and due to the pilot's rules, I'm allowed to do that.
Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Toronto.
Our Prime Minister had eyes on what's going on at City Hall today. After Monday's by-election win for Mayor-elect Olivia Chow, Justin Trudeau says he is excited to see a strong progressive leader take over the city.
You know, she'll be a real partner on a lot of things that we agree on, whether it's standing up for minorities and fundamental freedoms, whether it's women's rights or 2S LGBTQI+ rights, whether it's moving forward on investing massively in housing.
And Trudeau was in Mississauga to make a childcare announcement that involves the creation of an infrastructure fund to help build more spaces. He says the government is on track to achieve $10 a day childcare by 2026. Back to city politics, and the Infrastructure and Environment Committee in Toronto discussed the possibility of lifting a ban on e-scooters today. Many advocates for Toronto's accessibility community say this poses a number of safety concerns for people with disabilities. Greg Ross shares their concern.
You've likely seen them on the streets of Toronto, despite the fact e-scooters have been banned here for 2 years. Those who advocate for them say they're here already, the city might as well regulate them.
People do whatever they want. They park them wherever they want. They ride them wherever they want at whatever speed they want. And we think that's not as good a solution as a regulated program.
Stuart Lyons is the CEO of Bird Canada, an e-scooter rental company. Representatives for Bird spoke at this Infrastructure and Environment Committee meeting today, where the issue of legalizing e-scooters was discussed. He says it's one solution to fixing congestion on city streets.
I don't know of a single thing that a city can do that would divert motor vehicle transportation quite as quickly as scooters that cost them as little in terms of dollars.
One of the main reasons they were banned in the first place was over safety concerns, particularly for people with disabilities.
You can't know they're there in order to get out of the way. Cars make sound, bicycles make sounds, but these are silent. And so you can't know they're coming.
David Lepofsky is a disability rights advocate. He's also completely blind. He addressed his concerns over safety at today's committee meeting.
They're left lying all over the sidewalks, and they're a tripping hazard for blind people. They're a barrier to access for people who use wheelchairs.
He's urging the city to not only keep the ban in place, but to enforce it.
The other alternative that's being ignored is for Toronto police to enforce the law and to protect us, the vulnerable citizens, for those who are riding them illegally. The solution is not to inundate us with more of them.
Those who are pushing for e-scooters say other cities where they are legal have rules in place to make it safe for everyone.
One of the solutions we deploy, for example, in Ottawa, is noise emission. They all have rules. They have rules about where they can be, how fast they can go.
Members of the Infrastructure and Environment Committee voted today to move a motion to City Council, where the debate will continue and a decision will ultimately be made whether or not to allow e-scooters to legally operate on city streets. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
CBC News has learned that the province is looking at starting a deposit and return system for non-alcoholic drink containers. If it's adopted, people would get money to return empty pop cans and water bottles like they do now for beer, wine, and alcohol containers.
I think we should have gotten started on this sooner, but better late than never. We need deposit rates that are between 10 and 20 cents, the way we have with the beer store.
Environmental Defense says less than half of non-alcoholic drink containers are recycled, compared to around 80% for the beer store. The Minister of the Environment, Conservation and Parks is inviting industry stakeholders to join a working group to consider the options of implementing a wider deposit and return system. That process is expected to take about 6 months. Anybody out there feeling lucky tonight? The deadline to claim a $70 million Lotto Max jackpot has officially passed. The owner of the ticket, which was bought in Scarborough last year, had until 10:30 tonight to come forward.
I think if I was the person that missed that deadline, I'd be kicking myself pretty hard for a while, yeah.
Well, it's unfortunate for that person who doesn't know, but I mean, at the same time, they're pretty lucky too.
I can only imagine how this person will feel if they miss out and realize it later. Yikes.
Yikes is right. Assuming the jackpot was not claimed at the last minute tonight, the money will go back into the Lotto Max prize pool for future draws. It will be the largest unclaimed prize in Canadian lottery history. Ouch. All right, still ahead, our Eli Glasner is at the pink carpet premiere of the Barbie movie here in Toronto. Hear what the Canadian stars had to say about the summer blockbuster Plus. Welcome back. There's a special summer send-off this week at one Etobicoke school. Dozens of Ukrainian refugees are reflecting on their first full school year in Canada after fleeing the war back home. Talia Ricci has more on their meaningful milestone.
Do you ever wonder what it's like to leave your country, leaving behind many of your friends and family members?
For these young students, sharing their experience brings comfort.
I lived a simple life until February 24th, when a full-scale war broke out in Ukraine. So I have to leave my country. It was very scary because of air alarms went off, and we decided to came to Canada.
They were part of a project this year with other kids who arrived from Ukraine, creating a book of their personal stories and selling copies to raise money for their home country.
How they welcomed us into the St. Dimitri's Catholic School, and how they making us feel comfortable and safe here.
There are actually more than 200 stories like this at this school alone. Over the past year, it's become a safe space for students who fled the war in Ukraine.
They started to trickle in a little bit, and then as the year went on,
The numbers kept going up, and by now we've taken in over 240 students from Ukraine. So by September, we had to get extra teachers, extra portables.
And the support extends beyond the classroom. As the number of students grew, so did the food and clothing drive set up at the school's library.
The staff has worked unbelievably hard here. The teachers are incredible. They've opened their hearts and they are here after hours setting up the pantry and distributing items for the families.
As the school year comes to an end, refugees from Ukraine make up more than half of the latest graduating grade 8 class at the school, a milestone worth celebrating.
We ask for some Ukrainian music and we dance with our Ukrainian teacher, fun party and food, very good food.
The students say they're nervous for the shift to high school, especially after the challenges they've already been through.
I live here, I don't remember, almost a year. My parents been in Ukraine. It's be a little scared, but like war in the Ukraine, I scared about my parents, like because bomb.
This is their home and they are always welcome to come back to St. Demetrius and visit us when they just need a little check-in. The majority of us, myself included, our parents came from Ukraine, so we have Ukrainian in us, so we're all affected by it. But this is our way that we can at least do something positive in a time when it's very difficult.
Efforts that aren't lost on these students.
It helps us to not feel alone, and comfortable.
Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
Colette's back, and Colette, the poor air quality from the wildfire smoke is still top of mind for a lot of people. A lot of us likely already wondering what'll the situation be like for the long weekend.
Yeah, of course, we have Canada Day on Saturday, and by then we should be seeing those improving conditions. It gets a little bit better tomorrow, and then it could deteriorate tomorrow night, and then kind of gradually improving again in terms of the air quality. So that air quality statement in place from that smoke from the forest fires, winds of change on Thursday. So essentially we're going from the northwesterly flow that we've had today and tonight, and then into tomorrow it turns more a southerly direction, and that's what's going to provide us with some relief. But it does change, and it can even change, hour to hour. So still looking at some moderate air quality in terms of the poorness of that air quality on the scale. And a look at the holiday heads up, and that is because we are going to have some times when we're going to have some rain showers or even some pop-up thunderstorms to look at, and we'll kind of walk you through that here in just a moment. But looking at that wind direction, that change, look at all the southerly flow. If you're checking out the arrows, St. Catharines a little bit of an anomaly, but that does flip around too. So the wind's not terribly strong. Keep that in mind, 5 to about 15 kilometers an hour in general. But the sun will be shining like it was today, the difference being that tomorrow we should actually be able to see it. I'm not saying there won't be some haziness, but perhaps just not quite as thick with that smoke as we experienced today. And then as we roll ahead, Thursday night into Friday, this is going to be some convection ahead of a cold front. So some thunderstorms possible along that line. It gets a little more organized as we go into the morning hours on Friday. So quite likely we'll have some wet weather coming through the GTA, and even a risk into southwestern Ontario, although it may dry out a little further south along that line. And then there'll be a few areas where we're still going to see some pop-ups as we go through the day Friday, and a chance for some bubbling up into Saturday for Canada Day as well, but not all day and not rain all day. That smoke forecast, we get into the blues, that's a little bit better. You get into the yellows and oranges, and we're seeing that again kind of drifting back our way Thursday night into Friday. So tomorrow the wind change will help us for a time, and then we'll see it perhaps dipping down again. 13 for the low tonight in Toronto, 15 in Windsor, 25 tomorrow. Friday, that chance for some thunderstorms, a slim chance, but it's there on Saturday. Be aware of that, and even the risk into Sunday, Monday. This is kind of typical summertime stuff, Chris.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, thanks, Colette, and we will be right. Finally tonight, after months of promotion and hype, the Barbie movie hits theaters soon, and it features lots of Canadian talent, including London, Ontario's Ryan Gosling and Mississauga's own Simu Liu. Can't wait to hear how Eli Glasner thinks the movie went when he finally delivers his review. But tonight, though, it was all about the pink carpet premiere right here in Toronto. Here is Eli with more on what the Canadian Kens had to say.
One of the most anticipated movies of the summer has to be Barbie, a blockbuster like we have never seen, drenched in nostalgia. Now, of course, the movie is called Barbie, but here in Toronto on the pink carpet, it is all about the Kens, because we have not one but two Canadian Kens walking the pink carpet. Behind me, Ryan Gosling, the pivotal Ken, also trying to find his way in Barbie's world, and he is joined by Simu Liu, who plays the other Ken. And we had a chance to talk to Liu, who was talking about, in the movie, the Kens who spend most of their days at the beach, beaching basically. It's now a verb. Well, they're kind of lacking a little motivation, a little mojo issue there. Let's take a listen.
And I think, you know, that's the kind of journey that my Ken and all Kens, I think, in this movie kind of go on, is like trying to find some sort of existential purpose in the madness that is just beach. Like, what is beach? You know, is there more to life than just beach? These are
deep questions.
These are the really deep, nuanced questions that Ken has to deal with.
Now, both Simu Liu and Ryan Gosling have been talking about just how much they've been loving this pink journey, the pink carpets, the pink costumes, the pink decor. Simu telling us how it's challenging gender norms and how the film really is about, whether you're Barbie or Ken, about becoming the best version of yourself that you can be. But for Ryan Gosling, it's also been a way to reconnect with his younger self. I mean, he used to be a little kid performing in malls, dancing in hammer pants, and he was talking about how Ken helped him reconnect to that young man.
I thought I had, that kid had his hustle and he got me here and I owe him everything, but I was gonna let him retire and take a load off. And I thought I had to pull him out of retirement one more time for one last heist. And we made this film together. Yeah.
There is so much more to this film, directed by Greta Gerwig. The actors here just hinting that we are not ready for what's in store, but we will be able to find out when the movie opens July 21st. Eli Glaster, CBC News, Toronto.
Looking forward to that. And that is our show for you tonight. Thanks so much for watching. Marival Tarouk has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6. And I, of course, will see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Have a great night, everyone.